All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. I have on the phone with us Michael from Russound, who's going to be our host and walk us through the new product line. Just want to remind everybody that we will have this posted up to our YouTube channel tomorrow. So if there's anybody in your organization that hasn't been able to make it, you'll have access to that within 24 hours. If you do have any questions, please type them into the chat window, and I will get those read over to Michael as soon as it's appropriate during the presentation. And with that, again, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today, and I'll turn it over to Michael, and we'll get started.
Morning, everybody, and welcome again. Again, my name is Michael, and let's get going on talking about some of our new products here. All right, the things I kind of want to cover over with you this morning is, again, the RCI program, the Russound Certified Installer Program. I'll cover the X-Source and its applications. Introduce to you the X-Zone 4. We should be releasing that next week, I believe. It should be shipping. Its applications will cover the web configuration, the programming of the X-Zone 4, and we'll touch on a couple updates on the XTS and the MyRussound app. So the RCI program, what this is a program we started last year when we were getting ready to release these new controllers. And what it is a means of these products ship locked. And it's a means of keeping these products going out to the channels and going through the channels, proper channels, sales channels of distribution and dealers, rather than having these end up online, on Amazon or eBay. So they are locked products, and they would need to be unlocked in order to be used. And how we'll unlock them, we'll cover that. But it's going to be the same credentials that you use on our dealer portal login. You all are welcome to sign up for the program. Any distribution partners, direct dealers, anyone looking to install these products, you're more than welcome to. And we'll cover the steps on how to get there. So the other thing I'll just mention here, you can see it right here on the screen, the products that we have thus far in this RCI program are the 3 new MCA series controllers, the 66, the 88, and the 88X, and the 2 Extreme products that we've launched thus far, the X-Source and very soon the X-Zone 4. So to get on the program, very simple. If you come to our main webpage, russound.com, and you'll see on the left here this logo, Russound Certified Installer Required. Just click on there, and that will take you to this page of our website, where you can click on the Sign Up tab. You'll see there's just 2 simple steps. First step is just signing up for a dealer portal login account, just access into our support center and our dealer portal. Once that's been done, then it's just a little online form to fill out that you can access here. It's just a little bit of a survey. Really, the heart of the matter is, are you getting your Russound products through legitimate distribution channels, and you promise not to sell them online? That's really the meat and potatoes of that request form. So it takes just a couple minutes. Make sure if you have any intentions on installing these products that we get on that program. All of our other products are not involved with the RCI program, whether it be A-Bus or the intermediate level controllers, the CAA 66 or CA4, one of our amplifiers, just the advanced multi-room, multi-zone controllers, and these Extreme products. When you are welcomed in, and by the way, it'll take 1 to 5 days to get processed once you fill out that online request form. If you want to verify whether you're on the program or not, if you take a moment and log into your support center, to our support center, you'll see in the top right, instead of just support center and portal home and log out, you'll see certified installer. You'll also have a new document category available to you, Russound Certified Installer. Anyone who's not on this program won't have access to this document category. And here's where we keep the firmwares and a new version of the programming software, tech tips, configuration guides. A lot of these types of recorded webinars will be posted in here. So if you log into the Support Center, you don't see this or this document category, just take a moment to go fill out step number 2, because at that point you'll already have had a login account. All right, let's talk about the XSource. It's a multi-use single streaming media solution. Basically what we did, if you're familiar at all with our DMS, Digital Media Streamer 3.1, that was a 3 streaming, it was one box, inside had 3 streamers and an AM/FM tuner. What we did was chop that up into individual parts, and we came up with the XSource. It offers all the same streaming solutions as any of the other Russound streaming options as XStream products do. DLNA content on the network, Spotify premium accounts using Spotify Connect, Pandora, which can be paid for or free. SiriusXM, last year we added SiriusXM for Business, TuneIn and vTuner, which are free internet radio services, and it's AirPlay capable as well. You'll notice here, taking a look at the back side here, it takes a hard Cat5 to the router. There's 3 options of audio out, either coax, optical, or analog. There's a USB port that's not for firmwares. That's for adding a USB flash drive with some MP3 files on it, or an external USB hard drive that takes power externally. You'll see there's a little factory reset button, and we do provide you a 12-volt power supply. This is a product that's on the RCI program, so this will need to be unlocked and installed prior to it being able to be used. There are a couple nice things about this, exciting things about this product, particularly other than just a single streaming option. And again, back up for a moment. The reason why we chopped it up was to make it, one, more versatile, so you don't have to be buying streamers in bulks of 3 per se. If you only wanted 2 streamers, or perhaps you wanted 4, just makes it more convenient and economical way of acquiring these products. So even if you were to add up the price of 3 of these X sources and our external AM/FM tuner, the ST1, that would be able to be used with an MCA or C-Series controller, you don't come up to the same price point. It's still less expensive than one solid piece of DMS. So these can be, what's nice about these is these can be added in as an integrated source into either an MCA C3 or MCA C5, which, by the way, those controllers have been discontinued, but they are still out there. Those are advanced 6-source and 6-source 6-zone controller and the MCA C5, the 8-source 8-zone controller. They were what were replaced by the MCA 66 and 88 and 88X. So these can be used as integrated source with those, as well as these 3 new controllers. Or they can be used in a non-advanced Russound controller environment. They can be connected to just simply a power amplifier, or an AV receiver, or a 70-volt system, or anything really that has a line out. I don't have a good side picture here, but you can see this little bump here. There's physical clips here on the side that can snap together. 4 of these X sources can be clipped together and make one rack space. We don't have rack ears for them. They do come with rubber feet, but to give you a size-wise, they're about 1 unit high, and 4 together would be 1 rack space, so you could call it a quarter rack space. The other thing these can do is be used in conjunction, and we'll discuss that in a minute. If using it in a standalone operation, they can be combined with other XStream products on the network to form a share or a party. We'll cover that in a moment. So again, the 2 varying modes of the X source, and again, this is for scalability and economic reasons. But again, it can be used as an integrated source to, say, an MCA 88 or an MCA 66. All zones in that system would have access to that source, and it is one source, so it can only do one thing at one time, although it offers all these services. if more than one person is looking to stream something at the same time, then you would need multiple of these. And again, I was mentioning the standalone zone. It can be set in a zone mode where it will show up on the MyRussound app or the XTS keypad as its own zone, and that's how it would be controlled. And then you can just feed the line out to really whatever. Again, power amplifier, a legacy Russound controller. It would be a little bit of a one-way control at that point, because you'd have to go, let's just say you were bringing it into an old existing legacy RNet controller, Russound RNet controller that maybe doesn't go on the network. It's on an advanced controller. You could certainly pump in the audio as a zone being controlled by the MyRussound app, and then on your RNet controller keypad, just go over and pick that particular input. So this is just making it very, very versatile in the sense of what we can connect it to. We can now really add Russound streaming to any form of the system. Here is an example of it in a source mode connected to an MCA, in this case a 66. Happens to be going to source 1. So you can see the MCA is a network item going to the router. The X source is going to the router. Each of these zones down here have their own traditional MDK multi-line display C6 keypad, able to get feedback and control over that streamer. And there's also an XTS keypad here that is connected to the network. We'll cover this product closely, but notice it's not going to a keypad port here. And this would be able to control any zone in the system here. So it's just a basic, here's an X source as a source on an MCA system in source mode. Here is a very simple example of it in zone mode, just being connected to a standard power amplifier. So you can see here's just an RCA cables making that audio connection. You get that hard Cat 5 to the router. In this particular case, they don't even have an XTS keypad. They're just using simply the MyRussound app. And by the way, the MyRussound app is a free app available in the iOS App Store or Google Play Store that can control our advanced controllers, or these or an X source again in zone mode. Here's an example of 4 of them in zone mode, just being connected to one of our multi-channel amplifiers, our D850. Each zone here has its own streamer. In this particular case, they all can be controlled by this XTS keypad. Again, each one of these X sources in zone mode would show up as a zone on the MCA. When you turn on that zone, its available source would be really nothing more than the services of that streamer. So what we're just showing you here is just very opening the doors here to adding anything, or depending on what your client's looking for, what type of a system, how advanced, what is the pre-wiring of the place, but able to add Russound streaming to really anything at this point. Here is a look at the X-Zone 4, which is the 4-zone, 4-stream audio system. Again, all the same Russound services. These ones directly supported, DLNA content on the network, and of course Apple AirPlay, which is not a very common feature here. Very cool Apple AirPlay, because then at that point anything you can really stream if you have an iOS or Mac computer, anything really other than phone calls that you can transmit. Again, this is also a product on the RCI program, so this is a locked product that will need to be unlocked before able to be used. So it's got 4 streams, 4 amplifiers built in there, 30 watts per channel at 8 ohms. These are cool running digital amplifiers. It does come with rack ears, so it is rack mountable. It can be used And just like the X source in zone mode can be mixed and matched with other X series products to create up to 16 streaming audio zones. Again, Apple AirPlay capable, high-res audio supported, 24 bits by 192 kilohertz. It will be fully how this product is controlled. You'll notice there's no keypad ports on it whatsoever. This is going to be strictly controlled by either the MyRussound app or the XTS keypad. So in a sense, what you could consider this product, the X-Zone 4, is 4 X sources, right? 4 individual streaming sources that are in a zone mode. So we're not going to connect this with an MCA system, so these are zones. Yet on this piece, we offer amplification rather than just the preamp only on the X source. Very easy to set up and configure with our new Russound web config pages. This price looks like it's $17.99. Again, in the box, really you're just getting the X-Zone 4, some rubber feet, the rack gears, and obviously a power cord. The I, if you're wondering, is for international. So let's take a little look at the rear panel. Obviously, the Ethernet connection, that's going to take a hard Cat5, it's the Cat5 line back to the router. Just to note here that this product does take up 5 IP addresses, 1 for the host and then 1 for each of the 4 streaming modules. It's a total of 5. It does come set default as DHCP enabled. So as soon as you connect it to your network, it should get handed out 5 IP addresses. It can be set for static, but it comes set as default. Then underline it here, make note, but here's the factory reset button if you needed to reset and start over. So no more turning of dials or anything if you were accustomed to the DMS, any factory reset. It's just a press and hold of that factory reset button. The zone preamp audio outs can be set for fixed or variable, and they can be active with the speakers or just the line outs can be active. The way it is set up is if you are going to use the line outs as well as the speaker outs, the line outs are always going to be set for variable. So the zone would change with the MyRussound app as opposed to having it a fixed volume and going up to like a volume control. So if we're using the app to control these speakers, we're going to use the app to control the volume of these line outs as well. The 30 watts per channel at 8 ohms, cool running digital amplifiers. Again, 1 for each zone. A pair of speakers on each output would be adequate. Wouldn't recommend two. Definitely keep it at 8 ohms. If you need more than a pair of speakers in a zone, great use for the line outs. And of course the power switch, or the power port. The front panel, pretty basic. There's your power button, on and off. Your zone LEDs, 1 through 4, they light up green. They're roughly blue in this picture, but they do light up green when you turn the zone on. And they'd be off when the zone is off. And in the corner here, we have the system status and troubleshooting LEDs that are color-coded and will do various things depending on its particular circumstances, whether it's booting on or it's in the middle of a factory reset or if it's in the middle of a firmware update or if there's a network error. So we can take a look at this just right on the front here and take a look and get an idea what's going on. The basic little mock-up diagram of an X-Zone 4. Again, 3 zones going straight out to speakers, and 1 zone, one more than a pair of speakers using the line outs. Again, This is going to be set for variable only, so volume would be controlled by either its XDS keypad or the MyRussound app. Put a NAS drive here on the network. All these zones are able to access and pool audio from that same NAS drive. I believe you can even pool that same exact song. That's because Zone 1 is listening to, some song that's stored on here. I believe any of these other zones can pick that same song and listen to it as well. It's not like that one song is tied up. And again, almost everything here is being tied back to the network, certainly the Zone 4, all the XDS keypads. This is all Cat5, these green wires. Very little bit of speaker wire here, and an RCA cable connecting that. Here is an example of what I was mentioning of the XStream products being used in conjunction. So here we have an Zone 4, so there's 4 streaming zones coming off of here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. But then they wanted a 5th streaming zone. Instead of having to get a second Zone 4, they went with an X source, put that in zone mode, connected it to an amplifier. So again, the X source only has preamp. And now we have 5 streams of audio zones, 5 zone audio streaming zones, Where I'll make point here is that although these are all independent zones, all with their own streamer, when it comes to the services of Pandora, SiriusXM, TuneIn, vTuner, and DLNA content, these streamers in zone mode have a feature called Party or Share. And what they would do is, let's just say this zone over here decided to log in, start playing its favorite Pandora station, but yet was having a party and wanted to stream the same exact content through the entire home. What this zone can do, and again, this is limited to Pandora, SiriusXM, vTuner, TuneIn, and DLNA. Begin their streaming, and then go to the main service menu and pick Party and create a share. And what that will do is put that out on the network, a synced out share. These other zones up to, as I was mentioning, 16 now, or so 15 others, could join that share by going to in their zone, pick their streamer. Obviously, in this case, it's all they have for a source, so they pick Party as opposed to Pandora or SiriusXM. When they pick Party, at that point, this zone, for example, has created a share and just made a share. This one and this one, or up to 15 others, have the option at that point of join, or they can make their own share. So if they join, now these two would be synced up, playing the exact same streaming content at the exact same time, no delay. And again, up to 15 others could do that as well. Where the limitation of this party or syncing comes into play is only the restrictions that Apple AirPlay. We are not allowed to sync Apple AirPlay through multiple zones, and Spotify Connect. There's another limitation put onto us by Spotify. They don't want us syncing up using Spotify Connect and then pushing that everywhere through the home. So they're sort of a means of getting everybody to, I suppose, sign up for a premium account for Spotify. It's just a little out-of-the-box situation. There's some products that are often overlooked that we have in our lineup. They are part of the XStream line, but they're not streamers. They're wireless audio transmitters and receivers. So let's just say, for example, these 3 zones, you cannot get speaker wire out to these locations. We have the X1s, and it comes in 3 different parts. There's 1 transmitter, so we're coming line out to one of 4 various inputs. On the front, we're picking a particular frequency to transmit. And then we have over here 3 zones up to 100 feet away that you couldn't get a speaker wire run out to. They're utilizing one of our 2 receivers. In this case, all 3 of them are using the powered RX220. So it's 2 channels, 20 watts RMS. So there's a little amplifier built in here, and then they're going straight to speakers. We do offer a second version of this receiver that is non-powered, only offers line out that you would have to bring to an external amplifier. That would be the RX2. Now in this other zone here, I have going out to a bus-in, a common bus-in, because perhaps there's a lot of speakers that they want to put down this deck and play audio in a one single signal out to this area and make one large zone. All that we've done here is could use the line out to one of our multi-zone amplifiers to the bus in, put all their switches to the bus in, so they're taking a common input, and then feeding up to 4 or 8 pairs of speakers out to this area. And again, so this is the first zone, so all this is acting in conjunction with that one built-in streamer here. Each of these have their own streamer. So again, it's just don't forget about these guys. Very cool little products, often overlooked. And you can see very little wiring here, and we have 4 large, one very large streaming zone and 3 others here. All right, let's take a little look at the web configuration program, or pages of these RCI products. They are going to be a little bit different. We're going to take a look at the XZone 4's web config page, but I want to point out that, again, all these RCI products, the MCA66, the MCA88, the MCA88X, the XSource, and the XZone 4, those 5 products, all offer a web config page where you can do either all of its programming in the sense of the extremes, or on the controllers, the MCA series controllers. Currently, I'll call it, we can do basic programming. There are some things that you would need that newer version of programming software. Very soon to be all of its, our engineers are working towards moving all of the MCA's programming over to the web config pages and doing away altogether with the SCSC5 programming software. So again, this is a web config-based programming, so you just need a laptop on the same network, or a tablet, or a phone. You get a little bit of small real estate on a phone, but certainly can be done. And the only, out of all of these RCI products, programming is going to be done only with a network connection. There's no USB cable needed. There's no USB port on the MCAs to be connecting to do programming. It's all going to be done over a network connection. So here is the first page you would come to on the XZone 4. It's the status page. And how I got here was by acquiring the IP address of the XZone host, XZone 4's host, and entering that into a web browser. Here you can see I used an iPad. Just put in the IP address, takes us right there. Just need to be on the same network. Another means of getting here would be by putting in the host name. Here you can see the host name. There will be a sticker on the XZone 4 that will have the host name. Typically it's going to be XZone 4 dash and then the last 4 numbers of the MAC address. So if we were to enter that in here, you would likely be taken to the web page. If you don't know means and ways of coming up with the IP address, on the XZone 4, again, there's no keypad ports to pull that from. You could start the MyRussound app, I believe anyway, at least with the MCAs. You could start the MyRussound app, even though it was locked, it would connect, turn on a zone, and the zone would tell you that the product needs to be unlocked and would give you a link to jump to. A keypad on the MCAs gave you an IP address, a double gang keypad. If you have an XZone 4 here and you need to come across the IP address, one program I can turn you all on to, very handy, very Very handy little app. It's a free app available in both the Apple App Store or Google Play. It's called Fing, F-I-N-G, like finger on your hand, just without the E-R. It's a network scanning app that will just jump on the Wi-Fi, you start the app, and it will scan out the network, listing out all the IP addresses used, whether Wi-Fi devices or physically, connected on the Cat5, and manufacturer names. So it's a very, very nice tool to use to find that needle in the haystack. So with that being said, we enter in the IP address with a host name, a web browser, and we come to this page. You can see that you have this stripe up here. This device must be configured by a Russound certified installer. You just click unlock there. And I'm going to need to skip ahead because this is a little bit out of, well, tell you what, I'll discuss the unlock in one moment. I apologize. So this status page is for informational purposes only. Nothing is editable here. It's just to show you, host names, versions, any network information. Again, this does take up 5 IP addresses of this piece. So as opposed to making a large, confusing-looking table, just have one static-looking table for the host, and then for the streamers, it's just click on a drop-down box and pick the appropriate streamer, and you'll see the information here. All right, so now let's get into the unlocking. So we click unlock up there, and it would take you to this screen. And everything I'm describing right here is going to be the same for unlocking any of these products, the MCA series controllers, the X-Source, or the XM4. This process is going to stay the same. So it's going to ask you for a username and password. These are the same credentials that you have for your dealer portal login account. This is going to be the same credentials that you're using to sign up for and become part of the RCI program. Once this does require, obviously, by nature of the product, but for this process, it does require a LAN connection to it, an internet connection to a router with an internet connection. Excuse me. So what we'll do is enter in our credentials here. And by the way, you can click this eyeball, and it will show you your password, so you can make sure you're not making a typo. Then click apply. And it will process that, call out to our servers, call home to our servers. We'll recognize the fact, check those credentials, recognizing that you have a dealer portal login account, recognizing that you have the certification, and it will come back and it will be unlocked. I will point out here, there is a mechanism in place that, for argument's sake, Murphy's Law, you weren't sure, you didn't know about the RCI program, you never got signed up, you thought you signed up, for whatever reason, you don't have that certification. What I would say is at that point, you're probably on the phone with us. And my recommendation would be to go ahead and make sure you're signed up for the dealer portal login. Make sure you have at least the account. Sign up for the RCI program using those same credentials. Make sure those same credentials get entered in here. When you click apply, provided you have a dealer account, and whether or not you have, let's just say you don't have the certification, okay, Murphy's Law, it will come back and you'll get an error message indicating that it's going to go into a temporarily unlock period. It'll count down for 30 days, hours, minutes, and seconds, and everything. So there's a 30-day countdown for this unlock in the event you don't have the credentials or you don't have, say, internet access. Not a good example for this product, as by the very rights of it, you need an internet connection. But so you sign up then on the RCI program. That takes 1 to 5 days to get processed. You can see there's a larger window of it being temporarily unlocked than there is in the time frame it will take to get processed and welcomed into the RCI program. As soon as we rubber stamp your account with the certification, this will continue to call out home this whole time. That whole 30 days, it's going to continue to call it home to our servers, try to unlock itself. And when it finally sees that they have the certifications on your account, it will get acknowledgement and it will come back and it will unlock itself. So you won't need to roll another truck in order to permanently unlock it. As long, if it's been temporarily unlocked. The caveat, though, is making sure this information here matches the account that you're getting on the RCI program, if that's clear. If there's any form of a typo or the wrong email, it won't unlock itself, and the 30 days will go by, and your client won't be able to use it any longer, and you will need to roll a truck. So I hope that was clear. All right, so after the status page, we have the administration menu. 2 submenus in there, networking and firmware updates. I'm going to skip here to firmware updates. There's only one means of doing a firmware update. It's going to be a web update. Simply, if there is a firmware available to it, that will mention it here, click web update, and it will reach out to our servers, grab that firmware, carry it back, and install it. There's no needing to format a flash drive on this. It's purely updated firmware-wise via the web config page. The networking menu in that submenu of admin, here is where we can adjust static or dynamic. By default, everything comes DHCP. And the one caveat I thought we put in that would be make it a little bit easier, less confusing, would be, yes, we'll give you the ability to put them as static IPs, but it's going to be an all or nothing. So if you're going to set any one of these 5 as static IP, they're all going to need to be set static IPs. There's no, okay, my host is set for static, but the streams are DHCP, or 2 of the streams are set for DHCP or static. It's going to be an all or nothing here. So all you'd have to do is click on that static box, enter in your appropriate information, and then click apply. There's no real reason that you would need static IPs unless you're trying to control this, maybe third party or something like that. You need to be hitting an IP address, but in relevance in the context of Russound, the XTS keypad or the MyRussound app, or any of the other X-Zones, X-Zone 4s, seeing this one, static IPs are not required. On the setup menu, here's where we're doing really all the programming, and you can see there's very little to it. For starters, we have the front LEDs, those 4 LEDs that we saw. If your clients, again, because this can be put on a bookshelf or a tabletop or something with the rubber feet, it doesn't have to be installed in a rack. So if your clients don't want to be seeing these bright LEDs across the room, they can be certainly turned off. To go through and program each streamer, again, we tried to make it as clean as possible here. It's just a matter of clicking on what I'll call a tab here, streamer 1, streamer 2, 3, 4. As you're clicking on, you have streamer 1 here selected, so everything we're doing down below is relevant to streamer 1. We can, again, don't need to use all 4 zones if we don't want, so we can disable a zone. This is going to be the equivalent of disabling zone 1. If we were to click on streamer 2 and disable that zone, it would be the equivalent of disabling zone 2. The device name, that's how it's going to be identified. That's maybe a room name that you would put there. That's how it would be identified in the airplane menu, as well as the Spotify Connects menu. If you want, you could put an AirPlay password on so that you cannot connect an AirPlay, transmit AirPlay to the streamer if you don't have the password. In other words, as you try to connect to it, it'll ask you the password. You don't have it, just like it on a network, for example. You don't have the password, you're not getting on. Not too relevant in residential installations, but maybe more appropriate in a commercial application, where you don't want just anybody coming in off the street and realizing they can AirPlay and have that the audio system. Then below the page are the services, streaming services. They all come as enabled by default. If you don't want to use a particular service, maybe you have nothing to do with DLNA on the network and you don't want to see it in the list, we can just simply click and drag and drop over to the disabled column. You can also reorder how they appear by simply clicking, for example, vTuner and dragging and putting it at the top of the list. On the MyRussound app or the XTS keypad, this is the same order that the services would be listed in, so it can just personalize it a little bit. I'll make note here that you don't see Spotify listed here. Spotify is not a service. Spotify, the way Spotify acts, Spotify Connect, if you're familiar with it at all, is a little bit of a different service. It has to be selected in regards to us. Spotify Connect is something that's initiated. You're really linking up their servers with our streamer, as opposed to opening up Spotify, running a Spotify premium account on your phone, and it's coming out your phone speakers. You have Spotify's servers connected to your phone. Spotify Connects is you log into that account via the Spotify app, and then picking, in a sense, like an AirPlay menu, but it's the Spotify Connects menu, a device on your network that is Spotify Connect capable. And now the streamer's servers, from Spotify are linked up and streaming directly to the streamer. So that is why we don't have the option here. You would see an option in the MyRussound app for whether you want to enable or disable the Spotify link. That's something that's on the app. It's an app setting. And to be clear, also the XTS keypad, you cannot initiate the Spotify Connects because you are unable to get out of the MyRussound app on that XTS keypad. Therefore, you could not be able to go to the Spotify app to then make that initial connection. I'll just point out, though, using the MyRussound app on an iOS or Android device and making that Spotify Connects connection, then returning back to the MyRussound app on your smart device, you would have the Spotify Smart Art metadata and basic control. And I bring that up just because then at that point the XTS keypad or even the MDK C6 keypads, you would get the feedback of the Spotify and the basic control. It's just the initial connection to Spotify Connect has to be done with the MyRussound. I'll call it the MyRussound app, although really you're in the Spotify Connect. You're in the Spotify app is really the best, most clear way I can say that. Spotify Connect is initiated from Spotify. Once that's connected and attached to the streamer, then you could go to the XTS keypad or an MDK keypad or even back in the MyRussound app, and you'll have the control and feedback. Okay, let me know if that was confusing. I can certainly pass out a document that would walk you through getting Spotify to work. Now below here we also have the volume trim. So you're going to dial back how loud that zone can actually get, limiting it. You can certainly dial that here. All on participation, the 4 zones of the X source, or maybe 16 zones of the, not X source, apologize. X zone 4. 4 zones of the X zone 4. If you had maybe multiple of them, are they going to react to an all-on or an all-off, an all-on participation? That's a command that would be done from the XTS keypad or the MyRussound app. Turn all my zones on. And down below here is the speaker and line output option or just the line only. Let's get to here. Okay, one thing I'll point out here is when we make a change on web config, and again this is the same statement regardless of what type of web configurer on MCA, XSource, XZone, XZone 4, any change that you make here, you're going to see a green check mark appear to the right. That's a visual cue for you, the installer or programmer, that that change just was saved to the processor. So with the XZone 4 and the XSource, there's no writing to a device. On the web config pages of the MCA, there's no writing to device. Only in the case of the MCA series controllers, if you're doing some more advanced programming, that you would need to do a write to device from a piece of programming software to the controller. So that's what that green check mark is about. And again, you'll notice when we choose line only, now we have the option of fixed or variable. When we were at speaker and line out only, we only had it set for variable was chosen and grayed out. You can't make it that choice. Can't make a change there. I believe this is more of the same there. You can see here's just a look at the firmware again. Okay, it's just confirming you're sure you want to do the firmware update. Letting you know firmware is being applied. We have the support menu. Those are just links to either our support center, our main page. The drop-down box here is any of these products, these RCI products with these web config pages that are on the same network. We don't need to keep looking up an IP address and entering it in or entering a new host name up here. When you have multiple RCI products on the network, we can simply just click this drop-down box and bounce back and forth between which product you're looking to configure, whether it be a particular zone, streamer zone on the XZone 4, or here there's an XSource there. So that just makes it convenient to maneuver around without having to go look up some new information. So the XZone 4s will come shipped, obviously, with the latest firmware. The MyRussound app version 7.02 is that's actually one I won't confuse you. The MyRussound app version 7.02 is supports the XZone 4. If there's any XDS keypads out there, they will need to be updated to 8.0. The XDS keypads do not update themselves. It is an option we need to initiate from the settings menu. And again, I just want to point out that this XZone 4 is not a switcher. It's not a switching matrix. It is one stream per zone, but there is that party mode that we can sync up services, streaming services through up to 16 on the network. Again, which would be vTuner, TuneIn, SiriusXM, Pandora, and DLNA. AirPlay and Spotify Connect cannot be shared amongst multiple XStream products. Here's that XDS keypad you've seen all along. Again, a very, very thin little design, a little more than 4.5 inches, 4.7 inches diagonal, high-resolution QHD LCD display. It's got a pretty speedy Cortex A9 processor on it. You could consider this as running it's a MyRussound app at a permanent location on the wall. So think of a tethered phone on the wall that's always running the MyRussound app. And with that being said, it can control, again, all zones in the system. Works with the MCA series controllers, the C series controllers, the MCA C3 and MCA C5, and the XStream products. Again, if the XSource was in zone mode or it's compatible with the XZone 4. It does take a gigabit Ethernet with an 802.3AF PoE power over Ethernet injector. There's a 1-year limited warranty on it. So here's a back view. Again, it's very thin. What we give you in the box is this mounting bracket here and 2 little screws, obviously the keypad. We recommend a low profile ring or P-ring electrical box. You really want to get it flush to the wall. Don't recommend using a double gang or a larger box because this is a single gang keypad. Although I'll make mention there is some companies out there that make a conversion plate from a double gang to a single gang, so just pan to it. The time this slide was created, the XTS was only able to be put in portrait mode, which now has changed. We just released an update to it that allows it to be installed in a landscape fashion. Obviously, the bracket would need to be installed in a landscape version setting as well. One thing I'll point out is the XTS keypad does not have a gyro in it like your phone, so it's not going to auto rotate. It is a setting that you choose in the settings menu to turn landscape mode, and it is a particular direction, a fixed direction that you need to turn it to for it to have it to read proper rather than be upside down. I believe if we hold it in portrait and turn it 90 degrees counterclockwise, that would be in the proper fashion or proper position. So that is new, and we'll see if, here it is right here. So here's the new update available, version 8. Again, we added the landscape orientation, and we changed some menu buttons and reconfigured the settings menu. Skipped over a little bit here. I don't want to assume you are all aware of what a PoE injector is. It's a means of bringing power and data over Cat5. It's a little box, almost looks like a little transformer power supply for a laptop. It's about that size, and one Cat5 back to the router, and then you're in a power cable, and then a Cat5 out to this particular, say, something like this, or a device. You could also use a PoE switch. The benefits of a PoE is that you can utilize the existing Cat5 run out to that keypad location. You don't need to fish a power cable. If you didn't want to use a PoE injector and just bring data to it, there is a means of a 12-volt power supply here. But we do not provide that for you. You would have to supply your own. So there are some advantages of PoE. The MyRussound app, new version 8.02 just was released in the iOS App Store for iPhones. iPhones, again, got some icon changes, a little bit of reorganization in the settings menu. Improved resolution on the graphics, and now iOS or iPhones can now be put in landscape as well. Prior to this update, iOS phones are only in portrait. To my knowledge, the facelift of the iPad has not changed, so that is still a landscape only on the iPad. Yeah, I think I'll wrap things up with just going over some network information. Again, I'll follow up with you folks. Maybe I can get you folks' email address from Bill, and I'll send out some little informational package. But I just want to discuss real quick the importance of networking or building a solid network. As you can see, network is becoming vastly important in our field, whether it's the multi-room audio, home automation, security. If we could consider the router the foundation for this, just like the old analogy of construction, of you want a good solid, you want to build a big home or a big network. In my analogy, let's pay attention to the foundation, because that's what's going to support all of this. Products that affect us, or our products that are affected in this conversation, would be the MCA series controllers, the DMS 3.1 digital media streamer, the XStream X5 single zone controller, the XStream products, the MyRussound app, the XTS keypad. These are all Russound IP-based products. These are all things that are going to affect or be affected by the network. I do recommend using a dedicated wireless router. And what I mean by a dedicated wireless router is not rely on the ISP modem router combos that may be in the home. I know it's not always the case. You can't always just go directly to the router. Sometimes you have to go through a switch, but if you have control over it, make it as simple as possible. Connecting these things directly to the router can only help cut down on issues. Keep firmware up to date on the products. And when it comes to troubleshooting network problems or these types of IP-based products, things I would recommend is before we start tearing it all down is just simply, one, obviously check your network connections, maybe run a Fing scan, make sure everyone's accounted for on the network. Simply power cycle, at least power cycle equipment, maybe just the Russound equipment or just the router. See if just simply that makes a change. That can lead us down some clues of if you're power cycling and everything else starts working again, chances are you're not having an equipment failure, it's something's happening on the network. And just power cycle and cleared out some errors. Not to say that the errors won't build back up again, but at least it gives you an idea of, okay, well, when I power cycle it, now all of a sudden my MCA and the streamer are now communicating, so, okay, what's going on here? Keep connections simple. My best troubleshooting method when we have weird things happening on the network is let's break it down. And again, the context of Russound, what happens if we just connect the MCA and the streamer on the network and just leaving it as simple as that for a couple minutes? And are they communicating? Do they see each other without any problems functioning? Okay, and then just slowly start to build it back up, adding one thing back on at a time. Sometimes that can lead you right to, okay, now when I put on this switch that has all these cameras on, all of a sudden now everything comes tumbling down. So whatever it's worth, it can help lead to the right problem rather than just pointing at a particular piece of equipment and saying, this is not working or this isn't functioning. Let's figure out why. Why aren't these products seeing each other or communicating properly on the network? Sometimes it has to do with just some simple protocols or settings on the router. Various protocols that we rely on would be multicasting, IGMP, UPnP, wireless media management, or WMM. We definitely require and rely on multicasting. That's going to be the delivery of a message from one to many destination computers. This involves with Bonjour. It's involved with the MyRussound app, being able to see the MCA. This gets involved with AirPlay. IGMP, or Internet Group Management Protocol. It's used for multicasting, networking applications, and our context streaming of audio and video. Oftentimes there are proxies, or there's snooping, or something's being put in the way, or some extra added quote-unquote level of assurance is put on these, and usually what they do is just end up getting in the way. So if there's any kind of filtering done on multicasting, we don't want that being done. We definitely want multicasting enabled, but we don't want any filtering. IGMP, a lot of the times the setting on that is an actual proxy. For example, ATT or the routers that they use from a company called Action Tech. You'll often see almost all the time, you'll see an IGMP option that's checked. And really what that is there's snooping, or there's a proxy being occurred on that. And unchecking that with that proxy will prevent the MyRussound app from seeing the MCA. It'll oftentimes prevent the MCA and a streamer from seeing each other. UPnP, Universal Plug and Play, again, just allows device-to-device networking of media servers and streaming devices. So the MCA gets on, sees that there's an X source, perhaps in source mode and on the network, and just allows them to communicate to each other. Wireless media management. It's another quality of service setting for wireless networking. Basically, giving different items more or less prioritization. And we find when there is a proxy being occurred on WMM, it can often lead to problems or inconsistencies in the streaming. So again, I point this out because not all routers are configured the same. Really try to urge people not to rely on ISP modem router combos. Again, one, because they don't make them. The ISPs don't make these. They just purchase them and put their own specialized firmware on there. So you're already at the mercy of, do they even want to give you the option to get into some of these settings or not? The other thing is, when ISPs put out firmware updates on them in the middle of the night, they don't let anybody know. They just push a firmware update to an ISP modem router, and it's going to end up resetting the router and usually changing or undoing setting changes that you had to go in perhaps the first time around to get it to start working. Example, they have a Verizon Reaction Tech router. You went in, you undid the IGMP proxy, everything starts working fine. 6 months down the road, the app will connect. The app will stream. The controller doesn't see the streamer anymore. Just getting problems connecting to the streamer. First thing everyone's going to look at is, the app isn't working, or the Russound product is broken, or it's not able to stream anymore. And really, what happened is, because you're not under the full management of that network, it changed on you. So own the network. They're investing this much money on a nice quality home automation system or audio system. Take the extra steps to get them a basic, residential router that will have full control over, or you'll have full control over. It won't get changed on you. A couple that I would recommend, I guess, is Apple routers. Apple XStream routers seem to work real great. No setting changes needed. Luxo routers, they seem to work great, a little on the high end. TrendNet routers seem to be excellent right out of the box without any setting changes. Netgear routers, I would recommend making sure the firmware is up to date on them. Cisco routers, you want to make sure multicasting is not being filtered. That would be a defaulted setting to filter multicasting. There'll be some information I will send out in a follow-up document, a networking and troubleshooting document. So, again, check router settings. Make sure that these particular services are enabled. Disable any options that offer any filtering or proxies on them. I think that wraps it up. Here's our contact information. Feel free to reach out to me directly if you'd like. michaelb@russound.com. I'm here Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. The support department is open till 7 p.m. Eastern. And any questions or pricing or anything like that for sales, feel free to reach out to them. We're always here for you folks. And anything I didn't cover clearly or you want me to maybe discuss in more detail, please let me know. I've been talking for a while now. Anybody have any questions?
There were a few questions that came through, so let me just run these by you. Do you know if any of the control companies have two-way modules for the X-Zone or the X-Source, specifically, Universal Remote, RTI, Control4, any of those companies?
I believe they have drivers for at least the controllers. Due to the real newness of the X-Zone 4, that would probably be in the same conjunction, same driver, in a sense, just, I guess, on a modular basis, right, as like an X-Zone in zone mode, an X-Source in zone mode. I know I'm doing some testing. I've been pulled in a couple different directions, but I'm doing some testing, some further testing this evening on Control 4. So we have Control 4 drivers sort of in the works, being put through QC, QA. And I believe these other companies will follow suit too. I think URC, I would have to double check with a colleague of mine, Gordon, but I believe URC has drivers for the controllers. And again, I don't think they have anything released quite yet for the X source of the X Zone 4 because just the sheer newness of it. I'm not aware if they have a definite track. Two new products.
Okay. Yet. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions, or there's nothing else that has come through yet? So while we're waiting a minute here, I just want to remind everybody I'll get this recording here posted up to our YouTube channel, and we'll have this available on the AllNet YouTube channel here within 24 hours. So with that, it doesn't look like we have any other questions coming through. So with that, I guess we will, hold on a second. One did come through. Can you do a party mode with Spotify if you have a premium account, and are you using your phone or tablet as hold on a second, I'm not sure I understand this. So can you do party mode with Spotify if you have a premium account?
I'm going to answer it in two different ways, and I suppose it really depends on the situation. If it's a streamer in a source mode, right, so either an MCA88X, the built-in streamer of the MCA88X, or an X source being brought into an MCA in a source mode, then yes, one streamer could be doing something and all zones could tap into that one source and listen to it, right? It would just be a matter of, and a party mode in that sense would be, okay, I'm in zone number 1, I'm going to pick the streamer, I'm going to start my Spotify account, okay, I got Spotify Connects going now, and now I'm going to put it in the whole system, the whole MCA system in party mode, which will turn on all the other zones and I'll force them to the same source, then yes, at that point, all the zones would be able to listen to Spotify Connect. In the sense of an X Zone 4 or an X source in zone mode, right? So when we're dealing with streaming zones rather than a streaming source, if I can make that distinction, then no. On that party or sync, Spotify Connect does not allow multiple zones to sync that audio up together. AirPlay puts that restriction on it as well. What can sync across, synced up and now all of your streaming zones are playing the same thing would be Pandora, SiriusXM, TuneIn, VTuner, or DLNA. So I hope I was able to make that clear between a streaming source and a streaming zone. So the X Zone 4, those are streaming zones, and one zone cannot share its Spotify Connect audio with another zone. But if we're not dealing with streaming zones, if we're dealing with actual streaming source, like in the sense of an MCA system, whether it be an MCA 66 or with an X source or a DMS or even an MCA C3 or C5 with a DMS 3.1. When we're dealing with, okay, here's I have multiple zones and all these zones have access to the same source list, in that type of convention, then one zone is streaming something to a particular source, but all zones can pick that source. When we're dealing with streaming zones, these are pretty much all zones are their own little island. They can sync audio together, but not the Spotify or AirPlay.
Okay, got it.
Is that clear or is that more confusing?
Yeah, no, he's got it. That's the answer to the question. Thank you.
Oh, all right.
Well, with that, it doesn't look like we have any other questions that have come through. So, Michael, I just want to thank you for your time this morning. It was great. It was a great overview, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do it. So, with that, we'll we'll end the session, and thank you, everybody, for attending.
Bill, feel free to pass my email out. Everyone and anyone here who's still listening, michaelb@russound.com. Anything I didn't cover and you do feel like raising your hand or ask a question, feel free.
Great. Thank you.
All right. You folks have a great day.